At night in the mountains covered with fog, a barefoot boy with long hair, Ash, in a robe, ran through the forest. His clothes were torn, and he himself was scared. He did not notice a snag and tripped over it. The boy lost his balance and rolled down a steep slope. He raised himself from the ground on his right hand and cursed. It seemed to him that the strength from under his feet was disappearing. Ash looked up. He now leaned on 2 hands and cursed again. The boy stood up to his full height. He saw many figures and robes in front of him and sadly realized that they had calculated everything from the very beginning. Ash clenched his teeth in irritation. One of his enemies, who was standing on the highest branch of a tree, noted that Prince Ash had reached here in half an hour. His comrades laughed and said that they had barely waited for the protagonist. The boy looked at the naked blades of his enemies and did not know what to do. He had no more strength left. He loudly and confidently asked those who were hunting him what the reason was, because he didn't even have a chance to become king, and he was going to give up living in the castle. Ash didn't understand why they wanted to kill him. The hooded man's eyes gleamed unkindly. He said that it didn't matter whether the prince wanted to live in the castle or whether he had a magical gift from birth. The killer believed that Ash should have known about this. He put the sword on his shoulder and added that since the protagonist also had the right to become king, this was simply a necessary procedure. His partner suggested that the protagonist not resist. Ash's enemies' further words shocked him. They promised him that, despite the fact that he had low-class blood, the killers would take into account that he was the son of a king and would kill him painlessly. The guy was very offended by the phrase about low-class blood. He frowned and became angry that they dared to insult his mother. The prince took a knife out of his robe, realizing that his enemies would hardly kill him painlessly, so he decided that if he was destined to die, he would fight to the end. The man opposite him was not at all surprised, assuming that Brooke's bodyguard had taught Ash martial arts. However, seeing the protagonist's awkward stance with a weapon, he changed his mind and concluded that blood is blood. The killer continued to look at his victim. He thought that the protagonist was not a fighter but simply did not want to give up, and decided that it was even funnier this way. 4 men in cloaks, on the orders of the 5th, attacked the prince. Ash began to swing his weapon. His enemy prepared to strike. He knocked the knife out of the protagonist's hand with a blow of the guard to the palm. The guy looked in horror at the weapon he had dropped. The killer reached out to him. He grabbed the protagonist by the neck and lifted him into the air. The hooded man looked at his victim and couldn't believe that this was the end. The guy pulled out another knife from his belt on his back. The comrade of the one holding Ash by the neck tried to warn him, but only distracted him. While the killer wasn't looking, the guy plunged the blade into his throat. The dead man's partners perked up. The guy landed. His enemy was choking on blood. The prince rubbed his neck, smiled and agreed that it was funny. The killers didn't understand what was happening and how someone who didn't even study martial arts could kill one of them. They began to wonder if he was bluffing or if he really didn't know how to fight. One of them readied his weapon. He scolded the dead man for doing something so rash in such a situation and was afraid of what would happen if the guy really learned martial arts. The killer